Good evening, everyone, and welcome back. I'd like to call the City of Homestead Committee of the Whole meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, December 5th, 2023, and it is now 5:30 p.m. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Avila. Here. Councilwoman Bailey. Here. Councilman Davis.
Here.
Councilman Roth. Here. Councilman Cannibal. Vice Mayor Fletcher.
Here.
Mayor Losner.
Here. Mr. Manager, are there any additions, deletions, or deferrals?
Thank you, Mayor. We have a deferral to next month on tab 9, which is car number 3951, additional architecture and engineering services for the sports complex improvements.
Good. Thank you, sir. Any questions from council? Do we have a motion to defer that item? Moved by Councilwoman Bailey. Second by Vice Mayor Fletcher. All in favor? Any opposed? That conclude the deferrals? All right. Very good. If you don't mind, let's approve the minutes of October 10th. We have a motion to approve. Moved by Councilman Roth. Second by Vice Mayor Fletcher. All in favor? Any opposed? Let's jump forward to tab 3. The presentation regarding our potential participation in the PFAS litigation. Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. Per and polyphenylclean substances have been widely used in various industries for decades for items such as nonstick coating, firefighting foams, waterproof fabrics, and food packaging. However, mounting evidence suggests that PFAS pose significant health risks and environmental harm. Early this year, the industrial conglomerate 3M reached a settlement of $12.5 billion with public water systems across the United States seeking redress for the impact of PFAS contaminations to their water supplies. The Ferrero law firm represents plaintiffs in this and other multi-district PFAS litigation suits and believes the City of Homestead may be entitled to compensation as part of this class action settlement and is willing to represent the city on a contingent fee basis. Staff recommends that Mayor and Council consider the attached resolution approving the Ferrero law firm to represent the city on a contingent fee basis in connection with claims for damages arising out of the water pollution caused by PFAS.
Thank you, sir, and I believe Mr. Ferraro has a presentation.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is James Ferraro from the Ferraro Law Firm. I appreciate the council's time this evening. I have a brief presentation. I promise I'll be very brief and try to speed through this, and happy to answer any questions. So this litigation, by the way, has been pending for quite some time. But I want us to talk briefly just about our firm and our experience in this litigation. So we're based here in South Florida. We are primarily a toxic tort litigation firm. We've been in South Florida for about 40 years. We're trial attorneys, but we're also appellate attorneys. We actually have some of the most monumental toxic tort verdicts and appellate decisions in the state of Florida. We've been at the Florida Supreme Court 3 times in toxic tort cases, and we just argued a 4th a few months ago, and that decision is pending. But specific to this case, and what's important for our representation of the city is we are on the plaintiff's executive committee in the multi-district litigation involving this case. And there's thousands of cases pending in that multi-district litigation in South Carolina in front of Judge Richard Gergel. We were appointed to that committee at the inception of litigation, which was about 5 years ago. We also have extensive experience representing other municipalities in this litigation and also other litigations such as the opioid litigation, which I'm sure the city and certain city staff is familiar with. This is just a list of our Florida clients on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side are our non-Florida PFAS clients. What's important here, most of these Florida entities are in South Florida, and I'll get to this in a moment, but what's important about that is we all pretty much get our water from the same source, which is the Biscayne Aquifer, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But collectively, all of our clients provide drinking water to about 4 million U.S. citizens. So just briefly, what are PFAS chemicals? PFAS chemicals are used in a wide variety of products, but the most problematic product that you find it in is the one on the bottom right-hand corner, which is firefighting foam, or AFFF. Why? Because that product is discharged directly into the environment. Airports, fire training facilities, military bases, and the like. But you do find it in a wide variety of consumer and industrial products. So those products end up in landfills, and they end up leaching and getting into the water supply. These chemicals are found in every corner of the globe. They're also found in about 97, sometimes up to 99% in some studies of the human bodies. And the problem with municipalities is it's costly to remove. And that's with the settlements that have been announced and that have been reached, and hopefully there's more on the way as far as other defendants. Those funds are really aimed at being used for public utilities to remediate these chemicals. So these are just 6 of the defendants. The top 2, 3M and DuPont, which have a big share of the liability, those are the 2 defendants that have reached settlements. They're a huge step in the right direction, but they only cover certain claims. I'll briefly touch on that if necessary. But we do have several other defendants left in this case. So part of what we're proposing is not only walking the city through and guiding the city through those 2 settlements that are pending, but also filing a lawsuit against the remaining defendants. These are only 6, but there's about 16 to 20 remaining defendants, so there's a lot more to go in this case. I won't go over all the details here, but this is just some of the work that's been done in the multi-district litigation since about 2018. There was a bellwether trial that was set for June of this past year, and that was the city of Stuart, Florida. These settlements came partially as a result of that. They ended up not going to trial and announcing, nationwide settlements to forego going to trial and then settling with, hopefully, all the public water systems across the country. So what's driving all this, I won't get too deep into this, but the US EPA has come out and has proposed what's called a maximum contaminant level for PFAS in drinking water at 4 parts per trillion. Now, I'm not gonna get into too deep into the science, but when you're looking at a contaminant on a parts per trillion basis, there's concern over it. There's also, that's the smallest reading you could get on a contaminant, and 4 parts per trillion is basically a non-detect. So that's what they're proposing. That's the concern on behalf of public water systems all across the nation. This is just an overview of Homestead's water treatment facilities and process. Nothing abnormal. Again, what's important is, as a lot of our South Florida clients pull water from the Biscayne Aquifer. Doesn't matter where you're testing for these, you're gonna find the same levels, no matter whether you're in Boca Raton or you're in Homestead. You're gonna see about the same levels. So the way the settlements work are really looking at how much water is being treated and what are the levels of PFAS being detected. These are just some other readings, publicly available that you can see in other locations throughout South Florida that pull water from the Biscayne Aquifer. Almost done here, but just how do you treat for this, right? So some folks around the country have started to install certain filtration systems, such as ion exchange, granular activated carbon. This is tantamount to putting a filtration system on your home, except you're doing it for the municipality, for all the residents. So that's what those funds are aimed at funding. So just to cover the 2 settlements, as was mentioned in the intro, the first settlement for DuPont is for $1.185 billion, but that's for the whole country, okay? And then for 3M, it's a value of between $10.5 billion to $12.5 billion. What I could tell you is the amount of money, these are being settled on what's called an opt-out claims-made settlement. So those who do not participate, and I can tell you there are some that are not participating for whatever reason, that money gets spread out to those who do. So what I would ultimately end up doing is getting synced up with the public utilities folks, Mr. Barea, and getting the data that I need so that I could get the city an estimated allocation. But then once it comes time to the actual settlement being calculated, they'll take into consideration a bunch of other data. So I hope that wasn't too much information. Happy to answer any questions from the basics of PFAS to how the settlements work in practice. But again, we're aiming to represent the city on a contingency fee basis. for two reasons. One, we're going to be filing a lawsuit against the remaining defendants, and then also, guiding the cities through the claims process, which what I could tell you is this is not tantamount to filing a notice because you got ripped off $5 on your phone bill. This is pretty complicated. There's a lot of data that has to be inputted, and would be honored to represent the city. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, any additional questions or comments? No? Sure. Go ahead, Councilwoman.
Thank you, Mayor. When it comes to clients that are on well or have a well in addition to city water, is this something that they would go direct to file their own claim, or how do we?
You mean a private well as opposed to municipal water?
Right.
Yeah, so we actually have some cases involving that. It's likely that their well is not contaminated, hopefully, but they'd have their own claim. This is only, these settlements are only, the claimants are only public water systems that have to test for this under EPA regulations. But private well owners, there have been some claims out there for that. Happy to provide information as to how they could go about testing their wells. I mean, there's various outfits out there that are doing testing on behalf of municipalities, but also for private individuals, and it's, widely used now.
Thank you. So if we do get any questions, we can direct them to the manager's office? Okay.
Absolutely, Councilwoman. Yes.
Thank you. And then the fees that I'm seeing in here, are these negotiable, or have these been?
Well, what I could tell you is the norm is 25% is like standard retainer for most municipalities. All of our clients have been signed in a 15% retainer, which I could tell you is pretty favorable. A normal contingency fee arrangement outside of government entity representation is often 33, sometimes 40%, a 40% contingency fee. So if there's any terms, we're happy to discuss those.
Thank you. I'll rest for now. Thank you.
Thank you. So, in a nutshell, this, a payment to the city would enable us to purchase and install enhanced filtration systems against these chemicals. Is that the
Yes,
bottom line?
That's the aim of the funds. However, it's a good point to bring up because this gets asked oftentimes, especially for folks that see that they don't really have an issue. Is the funds don't have to be used for a particular purpose. I mean, the aim is to use this for that purpose, but this isn't like the opioid litigation where you have to use, I believe in Florida, we have some Florida clients, it was about 85% of the money had to be used for abatement, for addiction treatment and things of the like. Here, there's no requirement for it, but a lot of folks, because of the EPA regulations, are going to have to do something within the next 3 to 4 years. So,
Okay.
How do you measure the PFAS contamination? What method do you use?
There's a few, well, so the way the settlements work, and there's also what's called UCMR 5, pursuant to the EPA, they're basically telling all municipalities that service more than 3,300 people have to go and test for
Yeah.
from the wells. So there's 6 wells. There would be a sampling done of each well. And then there's 3 different types of methods. Some have lower detection limits, and that's stuff that I will work with the utilities department to make sure they're
And
using
who
the
will
right.
pay for that?
So if the city hasn't, so that's actually a good question, because this settlement isn't just one fund. There's actually a supplemental fund. There's even a testing fund. So if the city hasn't done testing before June 22nd, and I'll get this information, if retained, is if they haven't tested before June 22nd, they'd be what's called a Phase 2 claimant. Phase 2 claimants are able to go out and actually get funds for testing. And again, the testing is usually anywhere from $500 to $1,000 per test. So if there's 6 wells, times that by 6. So it's not a humongous cost as far as the testing is concerned. The big cost is the treatment.
And you do it only one time, or do you repeat it like every 3 months, or?
So once it becomes regulation, so in practice, this is important, and this apply to everyone across the country, is what will happen pursuant to the EPA regulation is this will ending up on your water quality report every year. So just like other contaminants, this will be something that will have to be reported. So every year there will be testing that will be required. Yep. Thank you.
And Councilman, we've already tested. I know, I believe the first standard from the EPA was checking to see if it was 70 parts per million or something to that effect. We're at 20 parts per million, so substantially less than what, trillion, sorry, not million, trillion parts. And so we're substantially less than where the EPA right now is looking with this concern.
It's still under, and that's a good point that I want to make, because right now there is no regulation. This is just impending regulations. That's why everyone's getting, geared up for this. Right now, this is not some regulation that wasn't being adhered to. I want to make that clear, because this is not regulated yet.
So, Mr. Manager, you're looking for our direction to have the city engage the Ferraro firm to represent us in this class action suit. Is that the bottom line?
That is correct, Mayor. Yes. And Wyserota definitely took a look at them, and they're in agreement with moving
So,
forward. like this.
Mayor, there's a proposed resolution that I'll read, if you'd like. It's a resolution of the City Council of the City of Homestead, Florida, authorizing the retention of the Ferrero Law Firm, PA, to represent the city in connection with the PFAS litigation, providing for implementation and providing for an effective date.
Okay, thank you. Any further from Council Vice Mayor Fletcher?
Yes, thank you. Just wondering, did you approach the city, or did we solicit your services? I meant to ask that earlier, and I forgot.
It came in through Tracy Slavens, if I'm not, she introduced us to them.
Okay. So it was non-solicited, but?
No, it was not solicited.
Very good. Thank you.
Good. Is there any public comment on this item? Is there anyone either online or present in the chamber who would like to speak on this matter? All right, I will close the public hearing then and ask for a motion to approve the resolution. Moved by Councilwoman Bailey, seconded by Councilman Cannonball. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thanks, sir.
Thank you all for your time. Thank you.
Okay, we're going to deviate one more time and go to tab 15, the Homestead Stone Crab and Seafood Festival request from the Rotary Club of Homestead Charitable Foundation. Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. The Homestead Rotary Club is requesting a presenting sponsorship for the City of Homestead, or from the City of Homestead, through the use of the city's logo in advertisement in order to help promote and produce the 6th Annual Homestead Stone Crab and Seafood Festival, which will be held at the Homestead Sports Complex on March 1st through the 3rd, 2024. No direct funding is being requested by the Rotary, which will be paying the $1,000 special event rental fee as required by code. As part of the city sponsorships, the city is providing generators, part-time employees for trash removal, and access to water connections for vendors. In addition, the Rotary has offered to donate $3,000 to the city's Parks and Recreation Department. The City of Homestead has participated in the past as the presenting sponsors in 2018 through 2020, 2022 through 2023, which have been successful events with thousands of patrons in attendance. The event helps the Rotary continue its mission to bring college scholarships to local youth. Tickets for the event will be $15 for all persons 13 and older, and staff is looking for direction if we want to continue doing this or not.
Very good, thank you. We have a representative of the Rotary Club of Homestead Charitable Foundation with us. If you'll give us your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Marcel Sanker, and I'm current president of Rotary Club of Homestead. Mayor, Vice Mayor, Councilwomen, Councilmen, thank you all. You have a wonderful evening. It is, as he already said, a great event. We did it successfully for a couple of years already, and just this year in June, we gave out $135,000 in scholarships alone. That's to 35 students in Homestead. And among other things, we support patches and soup kitchen and all local. So it is a main fundraiser for us.
Just let me help connect the dot a little bit.
Yes, please.
that $135,000 that was handed out in scholarships were a result of the financial success of the Seafood Festival.
Yes, it is
I
our
believe-
main.
And I believe that since the inception of the festival, the annual awards have grown from about 50,000 to now we're at 135,000
Yeah, we
in this
were,
community. of
We were
scholarships.
successful, and it is our main fundraiser event in Homestead.
Council, any questions, comments? Council, motion to approve? Is that what you need? Yeah. Okay. Moved by Councilman Cannibal, seconded by Councilwoman Bailey. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Now, back to the agenda. Tab 1, Code Enforcement Update. No, just Saturday and Sunday. It has to be there, because it's, Saturday and Sunday.
All right, thank you, Mayor. If you recall, at the last council meeting, the subject of code enforcement came up, and council requested that we do a little update of kind of what we've been looking to do with code enforcement. Needless to say, we've been having issues in terms of receiving complaints and things of that nature. So myself and the team have been sitting down looking to see what we can do to go ahead and improve the operation. So let's look at some important facts here. There's 15 code employees responsible for enforcement over 15 square miles of the city, approximately 90,000 residents, over 160 miles of roads, over 18,000 residential properties, 2,700 commercial properties, and over 19,000 vacant lots. So let's look at code enforcement, the staffing. We have one compliance and enforcement officer.
19,000 vacant lots?
That's what Development Services told me,
Okay.
all right? And we'll double check that number. So we have one code compliance enforcement manager. We have one code compliance coordinator, which the position is vacant right now. One temp position is vacant. We have 9 compliance officers, 4 that have less than 5 months' experience, and 3 vacant positions. One code compliance officer funded by the CRA, which is probably going to be the last year. It's come down from Tallahassee that we can't fund a position like this in the future, so we have to see for funding. One code compliance officer funded by solid waste, and 1 animal control officer. So the next slide, these are the percentages of citations issued from January of this year till the end of November. Now, the 3 big ones, as you can see on top, are: 1 is solid waste, about 15% of the citations issued. Nuisances, that's high grass, standing water, things of that nature, that's 20%. Building regulations, that's people doing works without permits. Now, looking at the numbers for this year versus previous years of code enforcement, the number of citations has decreased for 2 reasons. One is the staffing vacancies. This has been a challenge for a while with the department, or with the division, excuse me. And the other one is House Bill 883. This came down from Tallahassee, no longer allowing residents to anonymously report code violations. And that has thrown a very big wet blanket on a lot of the issues out there in the community and allowing code enforcement to go ahead and address them. I myself, I could tell you, was probably 6 or 8 months ago, was at a resident's home, and it was about code. We were talking about codes, complaints, people living like in apartments and RVs and things of that nature. And this resident said, listen, 2 houses down from my house, the RV did not fit on the sides of the house to get to the backyard. So they brought in a crane and lifted the RV over the house to put it in the backyard. And I'm like, look, this is most likely going to be used for illegal housing. I need you to report it. And when they found out that, I got to give you my name, I got to give you my address and my phone number, the person said at that point, I'm not reporting anything. And that's one of the challenges we have with code enforcement, because The questions come up before, can we fly a drone over people's backyards and see if there's violations? No, we cannot. Okay, we cannot infringe on their privacy. We cannot stand at a 7 or 8 foot fence and put a camera over and take pictures into the person's backyard. We cannot sneak into their backyards. Now, if the gate is open, as we drive by and we see an RV and people living in it, which has happened, then we can address it. But that's one of the challenges we're facing with code enforcement violations. And by the way, you all can stop me at any point if you want to have a question or anything like that.
Okay, I do. Why, why is it that in the progress of an investigative issue, you're investigating a complaint, you can't take a photo over a fence? What regulation prohibits
Over the fence.
regulation prohibits that?
There's
In
privacy.
the course, but my point is, in the course of a valid, a valid investigation.
And Mike's not on. There you go.
Mayor, members of the council, the reason for that is they're protected with an expectation of privacy. So it's not permitted in presenting the case if we're to invade their privacy, which is considered an invasion of privacy if you're sticking a camera up over the fence, which is normally a privacy fence, and they have it surrounded, whereas they could take that type of picture. It just won't allow that.
Okay, I mean, what regulations prohibits an investigation?
We can investigate.
Isn't the photo part of an investigation?
Yeah, but there's certain photos that are permitted, certain photos that are not. There's the expectation of privacy, such as the prohibition of use of a drone. That type of thing is not permissible as far as, portraying that and giving that to a code enforcement special master.
And Councilman, we could get you the statutes and things like that, and we'll actually provide that to council if they want that additional information.
Okay, before you go further, Councilman Roth has a question.
Just want to ask a follow-up to the investigating portions of it. And I've asked this before. When you have multiple families living inside of a single-family home, which a lot of that happens out in the northwest section, I had asked, can we look at their utility consumption to see if they're using more utilities, water, electric, than the neighbor next door who has a single family and a single family resident, and we can't do that. We can't do that. And we can't knock on their door and say, can we come inside and look around to see if you're housing people in your garage? So I appreciate the questioning, and I wish we could do more. And it's a very frustrating part of trying to combat the illegal housing that's going on, especially in the northwest section. There has to be a way for us as a municipality to take a lead in this and create some kind of state legislation. But when you have the county who says it's okay to convert your garage into living quarters outside of any municipality, how do you combat that? So we're living in an era that there's no real regulations that protect neighbors from neighbors when it comes to illegal housing. It's a very frustrating thing. So I don't know how we even begin to look to try to solve that problem. Thank you.
And Councilman, you have an excellent point. We've gotten, prior to the non-anonymous complaints, we would get complaints. There's too many people living in this house. We would literally go and knock on the door. Hey, we received a complaint. There's too many people living in this home or whatever. Can we enter? And the answer is no, you cannot. You know what I'm saying? So it's once again, it comes down to people's privacy rights, as the Colonel was mentioning. And it's a fine line there sometimes where we can try to do something or not, so.
Yeah, one quick question. So a city employee engaged in their daily work activities happens to see something that may not be in compliance with code, and they make the determination to notify their supervisor of that. Does the reporting requirement for the complainant still, or could it be an employee of the city of Homestead rather than the individual and their personal address if they're in the performing their duties as a city employee.
You can't just report it as a title such as a city employee reported it. You'd actually have to have a name and a person that would have to be willing to appear before the special master to testify in that. Yeah.
They wouldn't have to put their personal home address if they're under the city employment process, is the only thing I was asking. Yeah, but if they're an employee of the city,
Yeah.
they could give 100 Civic Court as their employee address because they're in the process of their normal.
But they still
day-to-day
have to
duties.
be prepared to be a witness at the special
Understood.
master.
Okay, that's all, thank you.
All right, thank you. So next slide. All right, so we're looking at code enforcement. Certain areas that we want to look into and address. One is the management structure. The other one is staffing, the challenges we have there, technology, public awareness, and the rampant illegal dumping that's going on in the community. So we're looking first at the management structure. We're considering spinning off the division and making it a department, kind of similar that what we did to solid waste. That would be bringing in a director. So the director is a position whose sole purpose is to monitor and manage the day-to-day operations of the department, which will report directly to the manager's office. I think us amongst ourselves talking, we think that this is probably the best solution. Someone who's there whose sole focus is this new department, as opposed to being a division. You know, the police have a lot of work on their hands. Yes, code is very important, but other things rise to the top. By making this a department, having its own director, reporting directly to the manager's office, that person's sole focus is going to be the department and ensuring that it's operating properly, okay? Hiring and retention. Obviously, if you saw from the earlier slides, we're having trouble keeping people and retaining them. So we're going to be going out and doing a survey looking at our other municipalities throughout the county, our size, see what their pay structure is, what they're doing to entice people to come down, how are they retaining it through benefits and things of that nature, so we could put together a plan ourselves to go ahead and start filling in these positions and hopefully retaining our code officers. Efficiency and accountability. This is for you, Councilman. The third eye vehicle cameras being placed on all code enforcement vehicles. Okay, this is a state-of-the-art GPS camera technology that is placed on the vehicles. It does a 360 look around the vehicle, also looks at the employee inside the cab. GPS tracks them. This way we could keep the employees as well as our residents honest, okay? This system was put in place for our solid waste department early this year, I want to say January or February, and we've seen marked improvement in the number of complaints. In fact, they were complaints we were receiving like 10 a week, like, hey, you didn't pick up my garbage. It's dropped down to 2 a week, and usually those aren't valid. The camera system allows you to say, hey, listen, you submitted a report that illegal dumping on this location, but you know what? Your code officer never came by. So now the director of the department can go into the system and see if the code officer did go by. Cameras will show if there was something dumped there or not. I'm telling you, very powerful tool here. And my favorite, after Thanksgiving, we had a report from a resident saying, hey, listen, after Thanksgiving, you didn't pick up my garbage. And so let's look at the tape. It's funny because the residents were standing in the driveway looking at our driver as we picked up the garbage. They were just looking for an additional pickup of their Thanksgiving. We notified them, hey, we picked up, and so, you know, we're all good, but, you know, there tends to be some false reporting going on. Next, insufficient space limiting the size of code enforcement. Now, the city is growing. Like I said, we've got approximately 90,000 residents out here, and that's going to result in more code enforcement officers. We're going to need more people. Now, I know that at the last council meeting, I mentioned that we looked at this building and there was no space, which is correct. We looked at other city facilities, it was the same thing, but over the last 2 weeks, it was brought to our attention. We own a building at 653 Southwest 4th Street. That's east of FICO Williams Community Center. Right now, it's being leased Well, it's no longer being leased. The county lease just expired on November 21st. Being leased by the county to hold an adult daycare center. There's only 11 individuals in this daycare center, 6 of them which are City of Homestead employees. So we think this is a tremendous opportunity here for a location, not only to house code enforcement, but to house them in the southwest neighborhood, which is one of the areas where we have a lot of code violations, right? This is an aerial photograph of the building. As you can see, it's ample size, plenty of parking lot for the code enforcement officer vehicles. This is a ground view of the building. So it does need a new roof. We already have an estimate of the cost, $250,000. But is this something that is palatable to council moving code enforcement to this building? If I can ask that question now, or you want me to finish my presentation?
Councilwoman?
Mayor. My only concern, even though it is a small amount of seniors being served, is this is one of the few. So I'm sure we are going to make sure that they find another great home.
Zach's been talking to him. Zach, if you can.
Yes, so first, we are in the new year going to be gearing up seniors programming at FICO Williams, and Pedro will be circulating a memo to you all in regards to this, as well as a change to the fee structure that will allow low-income senior residents to receive free membership at the senior centers. So that should help alleviate some of the displacement. I have also been in contact with Miami-Dade County. There is a facility in Florida City and a facility further north outside of the city limits in the Naranja area that could serve these residents as well.
Okay, great. Because one of the directors was volunteering for the Thanksgiving breakfast at FICO Williams, and we were speaking about it. So just to make sure that we at least have those addresses and we can follow up and do our part, not that the county drops the ball and says, you know, programming is available here, that we're able to follow up on it as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So illegal dumping. This is not, oh, I'm sorry, Councilman. Go ahead.
We're referencing this building. How many square foot is this building?
Yeah. We'll get you that number right now.
And then the parking in the rear, how many vehicles are in code enforcement?
I said there's 15 employees, but not all of them have vehicles. Each code officer and the manager has a vehicle, so I would probably say about 13
But they're
vehicles off the
take
top.
home anyway, so it's not like they're going to be
Oh,
there
11.
overnight.
And you kind of got ahead of me. I'm sorry that I forgot to ask this question when it was up. You talk about a kind of like a habitual shortage of people in code enforcement. How long has this shortcoming in personnel been going on? And so
The
over a
colonel
year?
says for over a year. Yes, sir.
So what have the exit briefings told you about why people are moving on?
Councilman Davis, we've done some hiring in this time period. Some of them have passed their probationary period, have gotten through the initial training. There's been others that have suffered and have not been able to meet the certification testing that's required by the city within a year of their employment. And some have just moved on to different jobs. A lot of it's salary and benefits packages that they can find better pay and better benefits at other job.
So is our pay competitive with like-sized municipalities?
I don't really want to speak out of turn, but in the past, when we've looked at it, we are significantly lower than a lot of the agencies.
And that's why I mentioned early on that we're going to do an analysis comparison, a survey of other municipalities our size to see what their funding is for this department. So at least we can be competitive with these other municipalities. And I know we lost one of our people to another local city down here that they went to work for their code enforcement department because the pay was better. So 11,000 square feet, Councilman, the building. All right?
Well, let's, yeah, and I know that question was in regard to probably the cost of the roof. Is that,
I wanted to know the
Oh.
square footage of the building.
Yeah.
If it was large enough.
Because
to-
you left off with is spending that kind of money for the replacement of the roof palatable to us. Well, if the building needs a new roof, it needs a new roof, whether code enforcement is there or whether it is an adult daycare center. And maybe you haven't gotten to it yet, but what other cost would be involved to wire the building for their technology, furnish it, and do what we need to do to rehome them?
So, as you just mentioned, we would have to likely run some additional fiber. There are fiber lines nearby, so it would be very simple just pulling off the main loop. The interior of the building is in very good shape, very good repair. There are several staff offices already established and wired there. So it would be a fairly quick and fairly inexpensive turnaround. We would also be able to reutilize many of the cubicle type desks that are being used in the current facility. There would be some other costs as far as the moving and some just customization that would be needed, security for the front door, all of those things. But
Councilman Roth.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm looking at an aerial picture from Miami-Dade.gov, and it looks like we own all of that from 4th Street all the way to 3rd Street. So if you have an aerial picture of the property, there's a lot of vacant land behind there as well that could be utilized for storage and confiscation and things like that too. But I'm going to show the mayor real quick, but you see how that whole property is kind of weird outline, how it wraps around another like block where it's kind of weird. But there seems to be adequate area there for something like this.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that vacant lot out there, my understanding, it has been a hotspot for illegal dumping in the past as well. So at least we can address it there. But yeah, my question, if council would be amenable to saying, yeah, it's okay to move code into the southwest, in other words, for it to be more effective in its operation.
Yeah. Councilman Cannonball.
Yes, I know we're talking about the building. I want to know, because just don't want to leave those patients like in the limbo. I want to know the names of each one of the patients. There are only 11. The diagnosis and the handicap and where they're going to be located. Okay? That's very important. We need to make sure those people go to a good place.
Understood. We'll
and
actually
they're able to go to that place because sometimes they don't have the means to go to that place.
No, I understand. And one thing to keep in mind, and I didn't mention it, neither did Zach mention it, the county came to us and said, hey, your roof is leaking, you need to fix it or we're leaving. So they were telling us already there.
So an officer may be funded out of the CRA so long as they are specifically tasked with a community policing innovation. So one of those innovations, for instance, is the GVI program. So this year, our CRA-funded officer is involved with the GVI program, which is a community policing innovation, just for some context. So there's a glimmer of
More
hope.
than one way to skin that cat.
Yeah, but you can't innovate the same thing every year. So just putting it in perspective.
Please go ahead.
All right, thank you.
Okay,
Question.
Councilman Davis.
I'm sorry, you never hear a peep out of me, and here tonight I keep yakking. I'm a little bit concerned as we move forward toward some kind of a vote, as Jerry's trying to get us to go to, just a preliminary vote. We're to get an update on code enforcement, but we don't know how much they're paid. We don't know how much the pay goes benchmarked against like cities. We don't know how it benchmarked against Miami-Dade. We don't know how many vehicles that they're going to have. We don't know how many vehicles are going to be parked there overnight. This briefing is rather incomplete. And would it be wise, I don't know, and of course I defer to my colleagues, would it be wise to say we need to come back to this and have a thorough briefing before we make a vote on what we're going to do?
Well, I think this lays a good foundation and highlights that additional information we need.
All right, I'll continue. So illegal dumping. Illegal dumping is not a Homestead problem, it's a Miami-Dade County problem. Here's just a couple of stories from the Miami Herald. Waste hauler caught on video dumping sludge. You're going to see a video of that a little bit later. Illegal dumpers be warned. Miami-Dade trash detectives have ways to track you down. Redland tenant ran giant illegal dump. Trash detectives hunt down Miami's illegal dumpers. And this is a short video of the gentleman who was dumping the illegal sewage. And during that video, there's a little key point. That's why I'm playing it. And I'll point it out at the end of the video.
On the one and only A Crime on Camera, police looking for two men seen illegally dumping wastewater this morning south of Miami Executive Airport. It's not the first time we've seen crimes like these that are extremely harmful to our environment. Local 10's Roy Ramos joins us live from Southwest Miami-Dade with the exclusive. Roy.
Louis, we are standing right behind some warehouses right here, and it is right here where that illegal dumping happened. In fact, you can still see the residue along this fence line right here where that wastewater was dumped. And investigators with Miami-Dade police say this is likely not the first time these men have done this. Cell phone video showing who police said is a man illegally dumping what appears to be wastewater behind warehouses in southwest Miami-Dade.
I noticed this truck over here doing illegal dumping. I approached him. I told him that what he was doing was illegal, to leave the area. He said he don't care.
Moises, the man who recorded the video, said it was early Friday morning. He walked out of his vacuum truck business to see that truck backed up against a fence, discarding hundreds of gallons of the dark gray, cloudy wastewater near the train tracks.
We don't know what he's dumping. That's, it's waste, it's sewer water.
In the video, the man illegally dumping is heard saying, "Aren't we in the same line of work? I'm just trying to get ahead." Moises believes he was dumping to cut costs.
I got to go dump. I got to pay for that. When they're doing it here, that extra money goes into their pocket so they can be cheaper when it comes to doing the work.
If that man looks familiar, it's because sources with Miami-Dade police say this is not the first time he or his truck were caught on video illegally dumping. In June, we told you when police arrested 51-year-old Julio Barreto and his 26-year-old son, Darren Barreto, on felony littering charges after they were seen in what appears to be the same truck marked South Florida VACCON services, illegally dumping in Doral.
Detectives are not leaving any stone unturned, and it's possible that this individual may have done this in the past.
And as we come back out live to that residue along that fence line right there where this wastewater was dumped, I can tell you that police are now looking to make an arrest. But they do tell me that they know exactly who they are searching for. For now, in Southwest Miami-Dade, Roy Ramos, Local 10 News.
The key thing I was looking for there, and you heard the gentleman say it, he's illegally dumping to offset his costs, to put more money into his pocket. And I'll kind of refer to that a little bit later in the presentation. So what can we do about illegal dumping? So I'm working with staff in creating a illegal dumping hotline. This line would be set up that actually if somebody observed somebody illegally dumping, you would call this line and it would go to the police dispatch with the intent of being able to catch these people in the act of illegally dumping. Now, what importance is that? And that kind of touches on the next slide here. If you catch them in the act and it's a felony, you can arrest them, you can confiscate their vehicle, you could hit them with additional fines, tipping fees, and things of that nature, that you make it so bad for you to commercially illegally dump here in the city that you're not going to do that anymore. So these dumping fees were increased. I want to say it was earlier this year. We went from $250 for the first-time offense to $500. We went from $500, I think, for multiple offenses up to $5,000. And so once again, you got to pay the administrative costs, the tipping fees, things of that nature. So it becomes a major deterrent to dump here or to illegally dump here in the city of Homestead. And once again, council's already approved this increase in fees. Next one, expand the state-of-the-art illegal dumping cameras. So when I first came on board as the manager, that was one of the things I looked at first at code enforcement. What can we do with cameras? We had 5 legacy cameras that we went ahead and retrofitted and put them out in the field. Unfortunately, they're older cameras, but they did serve as a deterrent. Wherever we place these cameras, which literally tell you, hey, you're being video recorded, we've seen a drop in the illegal dumping in those particular sites. So with that being said, we needed better technology, and I came across a project in Oakland, California, where they were having a serious issue with illegal dumping. And so looking at the systems they use, we were able to acquire one of those high-resolution 4K cameras. You could be 100 yards away from the vehicle, and you could zoom into their license plate. The camera has 4 lenses, so you're seeing everybody coming and going, which is important, because sometimes, it's not perfect. We've gotten pictures of the person throwing dumping the stuff out of the back of the truck, but you don't have a picture of the license plate. So as part of this year's budget, it was approved to purchase some cameras, so we've already got 4 additional cameras being ordered. Historically, Code would put a camera up and leave it there temporarily for a while to deter the illegal dumping and then relocate it to another location to save money. We don't think that's a winning strategy. Once we identify a location where there's always illegal dumping, the plan is to permanently leave the cameras there. Once we got the full camera system up and running, which might be 20 to 30 cameras, obviously those will be monitored live as well. So, public information campaign, we're very good about that. Obviously putting things on social medias. Once again, if we have a large arrest with a large fines, putting that out there so the word gets out there. Once you confiscate 3 or 4 business vehicles, people aren't going to be coming to Homestead and illegally dump anymore. Construction of new transfer station and modify the bulky pickup. So one of the greatest contributing factors that staff believes for the high level of illegal dumping is the city's bulky pickup of every 2 weeks, all right? It just creates opportunities for businesses to illegally dump or their employees to illegally dump. And here's an example. Some of you might know where this is. This is south of the Dixie Shopping Center on Old Dixie Highway. It's the storage facility. And hey, the storage facility threw out some things, right? They got their little pile there for bulky pickup. But this, overnight, becomes this, right? There's an opportunity. There's a pile. We know they're going to pick it up next week or next Thursday. And some people, in order to save the cost of tipping fees for their business, will just go ahead and illegally dump. And once again, we have a lot of landscaping companies nearby. I've talked to a lot of landscapers, and they'll tell you, hey, listen, it just costs too much to go to the county and tip because of the tipping fees are too much. And so that's contributing a lot to the illegal dumping. So with that being said, we had an analysis done, and this is a rendering of the City of Homestead transfer station. It's all enclosed, right? There's not going to be vultures flying around or stray animals. 2 entrances for the residents to drive in, that they can back up and throw their bulky stuff out. And what we're talking is furniture, a desk, things of that nature. The plan is to keep moving forward with the tree clippings. You got palm fronds, you cut down a tree, things of that nature. It's not to do away with the bulky pickup, but the unseemly items that we see time and time, a couch, a lazy boy, things of that nature, to actually do away with that. This is an aerial photograph of the old BMX track. This is behind our fleet. We own this property. It is ours already. And the rendering shows the red lines of the residents driving in. The blue lines are the residents driving out. And we're looking forward, if there's an appetite for this, to bring this back to council for doing architectural and engineering designs for the facility. And with that, I'm open to questions.
Thank you. Council. Councilwoman Bailey.
Thank you, Mayor. As soon as you started talking about changing the bulk pickup schedule, I was thinking, okay, but then we're going to need a transfer station. The only thing so we definitely need to do something different. We've tried quite a few things that's not working. I do agree that having a pile there. It just continually lends itself to other people leaving things. My only suggestion with the change in the schedule for bulk pickup is that it become maybe twice a year, that it's specific times that it happens. But if we allow palm fronds and clippings, I don't think we're going to see any change. I don't see there being a difference if we don't allow them to throw out something. It should be nothing or.
So you're looking something similar to kind of like the county does?
I'm saying if we do decide to change it, I don't think allowing
Well,
palm fronds to continue being allowed, then I don't think it's going to change anything.
And we're not looking to change anything right now. Okay, this is.
Sure, no.
A transfer station would need to come back to council, and you all will have to decide, yes, either we do a modified bulky pickup and do it with the transfer. I mean, the answer might be, you know what, council says no. We like our biweekly bulky pickup, and we're going to continue with that forever. But myself and staff and the folks of code believe, once again, it's an opportunity crime. It just makes it so easy. It's like I'll see, I live in the county, and then, the one guy who calls that one time to put his bulky pickup, and then everybody just starts piling on to his location because they know they're coming. And so once again, it's a crime of opportunity, and the opportunity is there. But that's a decision for council if they want to modify bulky pickup, if they want to have a transfer station, but we think it will make a big difference to this community aesthetically and also with the illegal dumping as well.
Oh, I agree. And then the other thing is something that I brought up before, and that's the idea of just having stickers that go on the cans with pictures, something that is just very clear, because I'll tell you, in my neighborhood in Pioneer Village, it's kids pulling their parents' stuff out for them. They have no idea that it's not supposed to go there. If there's a picture on the garbage can that they're seeing daily, and there's a picture of palm fronds with an X on it, and then a circle of it that has, Monday, Wednesday, and that's something that can easily be modified depending on what area you're in and what route you're in. We did the magnets. A sticker on the can would be a comparable price, I would think.
Yeah, the pictures, I like the idea. That's something definitely we'll go ahead and take a look into.
Thank you.
Councilwoman Avila?
Thank you, Mayor. Did you mention the location of the proposed transfer station?
It's on 6th Avenue. I don't know if you're familiar with the city facilities there. Once you cross US 1 on 6th Ave, I think they're called the Seagrape Apartments. They're on the right-hand side. You pass those, and immediately you hit Fleet, Parks, Procurement. The first building you'll hit is Fleet Services, and it's behind that. It's almost behind the Hyundai dealership back there.
Got it, thank you. And then is there a way now for residents to call and schedule bulky trash pickup?
If you have a special pickup, yeah, you have to pay for it, pay for the pickup as well as the tipping fees for the material that's being thrown away. Yes, you could call for a special pickup.
Got it. And so while you're doing your additional analysis, can you, instead of maybe completely eliminating all of the bulky trash pickup and having those 2 preset dates a year, like what the county does, maybe see what we could do to allow maybe 6, or even let's say once a month, 12 a month, but by call and schedule, and see what that would convert to in terms of cost and savings.
Definitely, we could look at that. And remember, council, we're relying on you may tell us no, bulky has to stay. And if that's the decision, that's the decision. We're just providing an idea of how we can go ahead and take care of this rampant illegal dumping that's going on, because once again, we believe this is a factor in it. Okay, so staff has not decided. Right. We're not going to do bulky pickup. We've not decided 2 pickups a year and transfer station. We're proposing this to you just to think about it for now. Remember, this item would have to come to council anyways for approval. So it's not like staff is going rogue here and just deciding on that, okay?
Right, as far as I'm concerned, we're brainstorming, we're looking at, how can we take care of this monster. With regards to the new code enforcement building, what's the loss in the rent revenue should we take over the building?
That would be $12 a year. They pay us $1.
Are you kidding me? Wow. Okay, so I'm definitely in favor in investing our property and investing our resources into trying to, come up with a solution. I think it's not going to be one answer fixes everything. It's going to be a catalyst of a lot of different changes and different mechanisms to create a new behavioral pattern. And I think a new facility will help to re-energize the department as well, creating the department so that they have that sense of leadership and accountability. I think will improve performance in general. It's just the human psyche. So I think that that's going to all create a pattern of positivity and help to reduce the problems. The pictures that you're showing, it's just incredible when you see those types of mountains of trash in and around the city. And trash begets trash. So I do agree that the generous bulk trash schedule does lend to having that opportunity, that crime pattern. But we definitely have to make sure that we continue to provide the service and the quality of service to our residents and the taxpayers. So, it's a balancing act. So it's a good time to bring this back. And spring cleaning is around the corner. So I'm sure we'll be seeing lots of bulky trash piles soon. So it's a good time to have the conversation. Thank you, staff.
Thank you. Council? I like the idea of taking this in steps, and I believe the reorganization of that division into a department, into its own home, is a major step forward with an analysis of why aren't we perhaps retaining those officers. And I think, thinking out loud, big picture, as we strive every year to continue to expand our law enforcement officers, they're going to need the space in that building anyway. So at some point, I think this is really proactive in some regard to move code enforcement out to make that space for future additional officers that we're going to continue to hire. So I'd like to, go down that road of reorganizing and relocating the department. I think we could probably all sit together and brainstorm and go back and forth for a couple of more hours on bulk pickup versus no bulk pickup versus a multi-million-dollar transfer station. And those are, I think, future conversations. But I'd like to see us take the steps to go forward for the reorganization and the relocation of the department as step one.
Thank you, Marion. We're kind of in that process right now. Remember, this was just an update. Now, I know I went into the illegal dumping, which is it's under code. That's why I did it, but it's its own animal, right? And so once again, the bulky pickup and whether we have a transfer station, that's to me a totally different conversation from whether to spin this division off into a department with a director, which to me is what makes sense here right now, right? I think they need somebody totally focused 100% on them. And to your point, Councilman Davis, obviously we're going to do an analysis of the salaries and things like that to ensure that what we're doing, we're taking the right course. We're going to get the most information we can before we go ahead and do anything. Okay?
Councilman Cannonball.
Yeah, I want to say something. I think the bulky pickup twice a month is the biggest benefit that this city has. Okay? I love it. A lot of people love it. I'm not going to vote against that. Okay? What we need is more cameras, especially in the places that we know they're dumping, and get more code enforcement agents, That's what we need to do. It's as easy as that. And of course, they need their own headquarters and manage itself, like the mayor just said. Okay?
Thank you. And those were kind of my thoughts. I know that, I believe that putting high definition cameras in place, and, we've had these conversations that I'm a believer that the first time a guy forfeits or has confiscated some real expensive equipment, word is going to travel. And at least for a period of time, that's going to slow way down. Clearly we know where the habitual hotspots are. But as long as we're talking about, illegal dumping and bulk pickup, are we at the point yet? Do we have the inmate work crews back, or is that on the horizon at all?
the trustees are available. It's still the same situation where some weeks they are and some weeks they're not. The crews are definitely much smaller than we've seen in years past. We're getting 2, 3, on a lucky day 4.
Well, here's why I ask. Okay, let's assume it's even legal dumping, and our clamshell comes and picks up the big stuff and drives away. There's the little pieces of organic debris, and in the other piles, there's bottles and cans and food containers. And I have this vision of having, a QRT-like crew of inmate labor coming behind our bulky pickup trucks with rakes and shovels and picking up the stuff that the clamshells miss or that falls out of the bulk pile. That's really unsightly, and it's very noticeable today in Zone 1 as today was bulk pickup day, and you see, aluminum cans everywhere.
Yeah, Mayor, definitely that's something we could look into. The only concerning thing is whether it's one inmate or 10, you have to have that one guard, right? So you have an individual who's just going to be in the vehicle, and I figure, okay, a crew of 3 inmates just literally stopping every other stop. Since we have such limited crews right now, I mean, are we getting the most bang for the buck there doing that, or, sending them out to the parks or cleaning up outside like they were doing this morning? But that's something definitely we could look at.
Whether it be the inmate work crews or expanded QRT, expanded solid waste, whatever that may be, to follow behind the trucks and pick up the small stuff.
We can definitely take a look at that.
All right, so do you need anything else from us on
No,
this item?
once again, it was just to update you all because you did ask what we were looking at and things like that. Once again, please have peace of mind. The bulky pickup, no decision will be made on bulky pickup or the transfer station. That would actually come back to you all. But as long as you're okay, and like Councilman Canaval, he wants to know about those patients, that we're ensure that they're all going to the correct location. No te oigo. Okay, absolutely. We'll get that information.
Vice Mayor.
Yes, one final question. I know we discussed the solid transfer station probably a year and a half ago in a meeting just like this at some point. Kind of fell off the trail as we moved forward. Let's not lose track of that. Let's keep it moving forward, and let's see what the cost is going to be for that type of facility and whether we're able to have the appetite for it.
We're already on it. It took time. We had to find the right company to go ahead and do the analysis to see if it was actually feasible for us. So, but trust me, it's not going to fall to the wayside.
And on an 11,000 square foot building, 250,000 for a roof kind of sounds a little high. So let's make sure we're looking at our local vendors to ensure we're getting good bids from those as well.
Yes, we will.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, so is there any public comment?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Brandy Ramirez, 2231 Southeast First Street. I want to thank the new council people for asking the questions, and also our Vice Mayor asking some questions. But let's not lose focus. And there was some concerning items that were stated. One is we'll just tell the county, we don't have the budget for the roof. Does the county want to renew because those families need to be there? Look into that before you make a final decision on putting those elderly persons out. So that was very concerning to hear. Another thing is you have a large amount of residents that live in your city that work for the county. So hearing multiple times the city manager always put a very negative talk on Miami-Dade County, it's very disrespectful because a large amount of residents in here work for the county. And a lot of cities, which Homestead should include themselves in doing that, is to have your staff work with county, get ideas and implement them. But another concern is you're saying 15 code enforcement officers. Well, you have a supervisor sitting here, there's not 15 code enforcement officers. They only said there was 2 that weren't vacant. There's less than that. So there is issues, but it's not an issue on the department. The department, I don't see any. Do they feel safe working at the station because the officers are there as well? They work hand in hand. The officers are able to go as backup if something is going kind of south. Those are other things that need to be into consideration. Not just dump them in a location, and is the location going to be safe for them to be there in that area as well? So there's other factors, but also ask, is the current staff going to be promoted into a director's position? It's a lot of, oh, we're going to do these changes, but let's make sure that your current team, are they going to be given that opportunity to be the director if they're supervising? So it's a lot of factors that please take those into consideration, city manager. Great work on the solid waste and on that building that you're talking about. It's been needed. So I'm not trying to say a lot of negative. Don't take me wrong, please. But sometimes your code enforcement officers feel safe to work hand in hand with police. So thank you for your time. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Okay, so I'll close the
Mayor-
public hearing and
Mayor, did I say something negative about county employees?
I didn't hear it.
I didn't say anything about any county. I just wanted to be clear for the record there. Okay? Thank you.
They left on their own accord. Got it, loud and clear. Okay, tab 4, and this is a motion to place car number 3888 on the council agenda, the allocation of American Rescue Plan Act funds for the Business Incentive Program.
Thank you, Mayor. The City of Homestead received a total of $19,192,087 of ARPA funds and has allocated $16,329,060 of those funds to projects and/or programs, leaving $2,863,026 unallocated. ARPA funds must be obligated by December 31st, 2024, and expended by December 31st, 2026. During the April 4th, 2023 special call meeting, Mayor and Council directed staff to augment the Homestead Community Redevelopment Agency Business Relocation Expansion Programs with $1 million in ARPA funds. After thorough review, staff believes the program meets the requirements of ARPA funding under the revenue loss category. Staff recommends that Mayor and Council make a motion to approve the allocation of $1 million in American Rescue Plan funds to augment the Homestead Community Redevelopment Agency Business Relocation and Expansion Program.
Thank you. Questions, comments? I mean, certainly I think the foundation of this was, I think in large measure, the recognition of what would probably be needed for the winning proposer for the Edison, the Stembridge building, Edison Furniture building, and other businesses coming in. And I really think this is going to be a very beneficial, enhancement of that program to be able to do a lot more in our core downtown. Council, questions, comments? If there are none, I'll open the public hearing. Okay, we'll close the public hearing. So we'll need a motion to approve. Moved by Councilman Roth, seconded by Councilman Cannonball. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Next is tab 5. This is a motion to place car number 4061 on the council agenda, the allocation of ARPA funding for the Commercial Enhancements Program. Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. During the September 20th, 2023 council meeting, City Council directed staff to reallocate $250,000 of ARPA funds from the Chrome Avenue Corridor Rezoning Program to the Commercial Enhancement Program. Commercial Enhancement grants funds are for the improvement or rehabilitation of the interior, exterior of existing qualified commercial buildings and for business relocation and expansion within the area specified in the attached map. Staff believes the program meets the requirements for ARPA funding under the revenue loss category. Staff recommends the Mayor and Council consider the motion to approve the allocation of $250,000 of American Rescue Plan Act funds towards the cost of rehabilitations, improvements, relocations, and/or expansions as applicable for the area identified in the Commercial Enhancement Zoning Map, and authorize staff to make changes to the program guidelines if necessary.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Any questions or comments from council? Yes, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Yes, thank you. And I did ask this question earlier of the city manager, but I understand we're using some words here in the supporting documentation where the staff believes. What happens if this comes back and it's not an approved cut, or where are we going to get the $250,000?
We go after the consultant whose letter's in here saying that we're okay.
Just want to make sure that that's covered, because the
Absolutely.
word believe just
It should have been a better choice of words, but
Thank you.
we're covered.
And, this was an item that I brought up, I guess, back in September. So many times business owners hear about the opportunities that are afforded within the CRA, and then they realize they're just outside. And if I thought that, if we're serious about the aesthetics of the community and, reutilization of buildings that are kind of vacant or not the highest and best use, that this could be the nucleus for that all along our Chrome corridor. So I appreciate this coming back to us and going forward. So any public comment? All right, we'll close the public hearing and ask for a motion to approve. Okay.
Brandy Ramirez, 2231 Southeast First Street. I had a question because we're mentioning the CRA funds. Can CRA funds also help support new CAD system for the police department so that there's officer safety? No concerns there?
That's something I'd have to look into.
Yeah, 'cause
Mayor, but if they need a new CAS system, they should have budgeted that in their budget this year.
Well, like not a new CAD system, but like at least to make sure that it has what they're needing for the officer safety, because there's a couple features that it's missing. So I'm wondering if maybe the funding could be able to help.
That's something we could look at, but police, the safety of our officers is one of our number one priorities, okay?
Thank you for answering. Have a good one.
All right, do we have a motion to approve this expansion? Moved by the Vice Mayor, seconded by Councilman Cannonball. All in favor? Aye. Are there any opposed? All right, moving on to tab 6, the motion to place car number 4103 on the council agenda, the municipal real property inventory list. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Florida Statute 166.0451 requires each municipality to prepare a list of all real property within its jurisdiction to which the municipality or any dependent special district within its boundaries holds fee simple title, which is appropriate for use as affordable housing. The governing body of the municipality must review the inventory list at a public hearing and may revise it at the conclusion of the public hearing. Following the public hearing, the governing body of the municipality shall adopt a resolution that includes an inventory list of such property. Each municipality shall make the inventory list publicly available on its website to encourage potential development. Staff recommends the mayor and council consider the attached resolution adopting the inventory list of municipally owned real property, which is appropriate for the use as affordable housing. If you, mayor and council, take a look, there's only 6 properties on there. 5 of them are from the Neighborhood Stabilization Program, which we're redoing those houses so we can go ahead and sell them to low income. The other large property that is there is the shotgun property.
Council, questions, comments? It's approving an inventory, pretty straightforward. Any public comment? Okay, seeing none, do we have a motion to approve? Moved by Councilman Cannonball, seconded by Councilwoman Bailey. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, next item, tab 7, motion to place car number 4109 on the council agenda, the IBM I-Series purchase. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. This purchase is to replace the city's IBM Series Model 8286-41A purchased in 2017, which has reached its end of life. This model is no longer upgradable with software support ending on May 31st, 2024. The I-Series hosts Naviline, which is the city's main financial accounting application and provides functions such as cash receipts, HR, payroll, purchasing and inventory, utility billing, fleet management, and work orders. The Information Technology Services Department researched various options and concluded that the best long-term and most cost-effective option was the IBM I-Series Naviline solution from SPS VAR, Inc. Staff recommends the mayor and council approve the attached resolution authorizing the city manager to enter an agreement with SPS VAR LLC for the purchase, implementation, and 3 years of maintenance for a new IBM I-Series Naviline solution for a total of $119,320.31. This purchase is in accordance with the Omnia Partners Contract NCPA 0167. This project is part of the city's capital improvement plan.
Thank you. Council? Questions, comments? Have any public comment? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to approve. Moved by Councilman Cannonball. Do we have a second by the Vice Mayor? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, tab 8, motion to place car number 4080 on the council agenda, renewal of the training partnership between the City of Homestead and Homestead Air Reserve Base. Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. On October 26, 2016, Council approved a 5-year mutual operations agreement with the Homestead Air Reserve Base, which allowed for the base to partner with the city to provide mutually beneficial training opportunities for the base and the city, including pole climbing training, electrical training, and water and sewer operations. The partnership was successfully implemented and resulted in multiple opportunities where the base personnel work together with the City of Homestead departments to build the skill sets of all parties. Homestead Air Reserve Base has approached the city asking to renew the agreement for an additional 5 years. Staff recommends that council approve the attached agreement between the City of Homestead and the Homestead Air Reserve Base to renew the previously mutually beneficial training partnership.
Very good, thank you. Any questions or comments from council? None? Public comments? Okay, I'll close the public hearing and ask for a motion to approve. Moved by Councilman Bailey, seconded by Councilman Davis. All in favor? Any opposed? That was tab 8. We have already addressed tab 9. Moving on to tab 10. And this is a motion to place car number 4113 on the council agenda, Department of Justice COPS Micro Grant. Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. The Homestead Police Department applied for and has received the grant award in the amount of $174,999 from the Department of Justice COPS Office. The funding will support trauma-informed care coordinator, a community outreach worker, staff training, overtime for law enforcement group violence reduction activities, overtime for crime analysts to provide crime statistical data for the determination of response, and relocation funds for those who are in need of safe shelter. Staff recommends that Mayor and Council approve the attached resolution authorizing city manager to enter an agreement and establish a budget for a grant award of $174,999 from the Department of Justice COPS Office for crime reduction initiatives. This grant requires no matching funds. And Sandy's here if there's any questions.
Okay, very good. Council, questions, comments? Sure, Councilwoman Bailey.
Just a quick comment. I met earlier with Kamitra, and MDEET is going to have a nice big event here at the Miami-Dade College on the 7th. I know it's the same night, unfortunately, as Shop with a Cop, but we were talking about, all of the different initiatives that we wanted to share that we're working on as a city. And the list just was going on and on, talking about the GVI and all the way down to the small knock and talks and town halls. So I just wanted to say thank you for all your hard work, and I'm excited to talk about all the great things that the officers are doing and that they're currently busy out shopping with kids for Christmas. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Anything further from council? Okay, is there anyone wishing to speak on this matter in the public? Okay, seeing none, then I will call for a motion to approve this, to place this item on the agenda. Moved by Councilwoman Bailey, seconded by Councilman Cannonball. All in favor? Any opposed? Moving on to tab 11. Motion to place car number 4114 on the council agenda, the FDLE Hotspot Policing Initiative to Reduce Crime. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. The Homestead Police Department applied for and received a grant award from the Florida Department of Law Enforcement in the amount of $11,142. The grant funds support law enforcement overtime in order to enhance the department's evidence-based practice, hotspot policing. Hotspot policing involves high saturation patrols and high visibility enforcement within an identified area in which a high rate of crime is occurring. The area is identified through crime data that is collected and analyzed by the department crime analysts. Staff recommends the mayor and council approve the attached resolution authorizing the city manager to enter an agreement and establish a budget for a grant award of $11,142 from the Florida Department of Law Enforcement to expand crime reduction initiatives through evidence-based hotspot policing. This grant requires no matching funds.
Thank you. Council, questions, comments? Any public comment? Hearing none, do we have a motion to place this item on the council agenda? Moved by Councilwoman Bailey, seconded by Councilman Cannonball. All in favor? Thank you. Moving on to tab 12, and this is a motion to place car number 4082 on the council agenda. The lead and copper rule revisions compliance assistance. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. The United States Environmental Protection Agency on January 15, 2021 implemented new lead and copper rule revisions to better protect children and communities from the risk of lead exposure by better protecting children at schools and children care facilities getting the lead out of the nation's drinking water. This new regulation requires the development of a lead service line inventory and replacement plan that must be submitted to the Florida Department of Environmental Protection by October 2024. Staff recommends that Mayor and Council approve the attached resolution authorizing the city manager to enter an agreement with Hazen and Sawyer for professional engineering services pursuant to RFQ 2013-07, professional architectural and engineering services for a lump sum not to exceed $287,009 for lead and copper rule revision compliance assistance.
Thank you. Council, any initial questions or comments? Councilman Davis.
Jerry, I just got a question. Hazen and Sawyer, was this contract at all bid, or was it just awarded?
So, Councilman, that's an excellent question. So, for architectural and engineering services, that falls under CC&A, right? And so the city has to do an RFQ for the list of all the projects it's doing in the future, architectural and engineering services, and they submit bids there at that time of what their hourly rates are for the services they are providing. And so once these projects come up, depending on the dollar amount, staff can talk to the different architectural engineering services and go ahead and select it at that point.
So Hazen and Sawyer is the lowest bidder?
The highest ranked. Right, for architectural engineering, and I'll give you an information sheet on that. It can't be price-based, depending on the dollar amount of the project.
All right, thank you.
Question. Lead pipe for public water systems has been banned, or at least they've known not to use it since what? The mid-1950s? Okay, Mr. Brea is shaking his head, yes. Do we have any reason to believe that our municipal pipelines still contain any lead pipe? And while Mr. Brea is coming down, what I'm getting at is, isn't there more a cost-effective way to initially determine whether or not there is lead in our water system as a result of our side of the meter?
I'll
That's a lot of
defer to the
money.
city engineer on this one.
So yeah, so the lead and copper rule has been around for many years. The EPA set that up probably in the 1970s, I think is when they started, requiring this type of testing per se. We've been doing the testing every year, just like every other municipality has to do. That's a water utility provider. So, and we have to report that information to the EPA. And it basically, in the past, all they've asked for is basically just take water samples at different locations in the city throughout your distribution system and see if there's any levels that are, detectable at that time to a certain level. We've always passed, never had any issues like that. But now they're going a step further. This new rule, which, regulatory agencies do this quite a bit, they want to increase always the amount of requirements. And this new requirement, now they're asking for an actual inventory and also a plan of action that shows how you're going to find if there are any actual lead pipes in your system, and then a plan of how you're going to replace them. And it also impacts residents as well, because it will get to the point where if we find, for example, in a water meter that our pipe might be fine, but beyond the water meter into the property is lead, that information has to be also furnished to the EPA for compliance reasons. So it's a quite extensive change that they've done now. They've gone from more of a qualitative type of analysis to now actually, they want quantifiable information. They want to actually be able to figure out where within your system you think you might have some lead pipes, and probably we do have some. We're just lucky that our water is not corrosive, so it doesn't leach into the water system. But every system has some areas that have some lead piping in them, just because systems have been around for many years. So this is just a requirement, and it does require certification by an engineering firm to be able to submit this information to the EPA.
So in lay terms, this sounds like an unfunded mandate.
I didn't want to say that, but yes, that's pretty much every mandate we get. It's
Yeah.
exactly that.
Is this going to be a new recurring annual expense?
Well, once we do the inventory and we submit the plan of action, then we'll have to be reporting on that plan of action how much we've actually done on a year-to-year basis. So it does obviously increase the operational costs, right? Because now we're also having to do some remedial repairs and also then prove to the EPA that we're meeting those requirements. And it's based on our analysis and how the plan is set up of how many years it will allow us to do the work and continue doing the work, et cetera, to get to a final completion.
Well, and common sense tells me that we don't even need to have them look on the east side of US 1.
Correct.
That there would be neighborhoods and systems of a given age that we can pinpoint the likely areas.
You're absolutely right, and that's one of the requirements of this study that the EPA is requiring is identifying the geographical areas where you think you're going to see problems, and then focus all your efforts in those areas, not in something that was built last year or 10 years ago, et cetera. Yeah.
Okay. So touch again on this potential residential, the owner side of the meter in the future.
So even in the past, the lead and copper rule required that water samples be taken not from fire hydrants or areas that are controlled by the utility, but actual from hose bibs at particular residences, right? And that's always been the case since the lead and copper rule has been around. And what happens is, they'll send like a list of these are the 10, 15 homes that you got to look at throughout your system. All of them, I guess, being located in areas where, so you cover the whole distribution system, right? So we've been doing that for some time, that we actually have to take the samples at the faucet of the home, per se. And a lot of times, if there is a positive reading, the next step is to figure out, is a positive reading because the water coming through our pipe or the pipes within the residential, property. And if it's a residential property, they don't have to replace their pipes, nothing to that end. What the EPA will do is basically it's an educational type of program, teaching them, look, in the morning, turn on the water, let it run for a minute, and that will get rid of whatever, residual lead you might have in the water supply, and then from then on, the water will be clean. So it's things like that. There's other things that you could do, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they would have to replace their pipes, et cetera.
As long as we don't have to.
Yeah, no, it's
on the
that is
backside
particular.
of the meter.
If we are responsible to the meter box from that moment forward, it's all
right.
it's
So,
the residence.
okay. And at some point, we'll be advised as to whether or not we've got an expensive problem on our hands.
Correct. And then at that point, the next step is how many years are we given to fix it?
Okay. And I say to Councilman Roth, I'm just sitting here thinking out loud about future contractual disclosures that are going to have to be given. Somebody will dream that up.
Yeah, and you touched on the residential side of the thing that I was thinking about. Was like, if they determine that there's lead going into the home beyond the meter, that shouldn't fall onto our responsibility, and at that point, that brings up disclosing, right? The homeowner who's selling the property may have to have a disclosure once it's been made known, but you're not going to go out and check every single for that part of it. Thank you.
Thank you. So you need our approval to go spend that money. All right.
Do we need to comply?
Mayor, if I
You know,
may.
that was my question,
Yeah,
yes.
exactly. I'm thinking along the same lines. I'm trying to figure out, well, what is it that Hazen is going to actually do? I mean, is this 200,000 and change like just a stamp for their insurance policy? Because it sounds to me like Brea does all the work, is going to be doing, well, you and your team, you're doing all the work. So
Well, no, actually, they're going to be doing quite a bit. If in the package, their proposal is there with all the tasks that they're going to do. There's extensive field analysis that they have to do because, again, the whole thing is we have to prove to the EPA that the information is correct, and it might require digging. It might require a lot of things that need to take place in addition to looking at all the records in the past of, for example, building code requirements, at what point were the lead piping not allowed anymore, and then you can identify those neighborhoods that were built after that, so it takes a lot of analysis to get to that point.
okay, I think it takes them a lot of work to try to get into your head because all that information is in Brea's head. So I
Well,
get
yeah,
it.
I have to
I would like
squeeze
to
my
be
head.
briefed ongoing. I don't know if this is the type of contract that'll come back for presentations and updated information
we
on the
can.
dais. But
Absolutely.
I'm curious to kind of follow this.
Yeah, we
project
could do
along.
that after we get the final product that we submit to the EPA. We can definitely do a presentation.
Thank you.
And as to the question, do we need to do it? Well, I mean, we could say no, but I'm sure we'll lose our license to,
No, yeah, this is not. It's not a suggestion. It's a requirement.
All right. Moved by Councilwoman Avila, seconded by Councilman Davis. All in favor? Any opposed? All right. That takes us to tab 13. Motion to place car number 4111 on the council agenda, RFQ number 2023-28, wastewater treatment plant backup generators. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. On March 17th, 2021, Mayor and Council approved the resolution authorizing city manager to enter into an agreement with the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity utilizing Federal Community Development Block Grant mitigation funds for the purchase and installation of 3 backup generators at the wastewater treatment facility. Staff recommends that Mayor and Council authorize the city manager to enter into negotiations with the top-ranked firm, Hazen and Sawyer, for the award of RFQ 2023-28 wastewater treatment plant backup generators I-0127. If the top-ranked firm is unable to meet the city's needs and requirements, negotiations will then proceed to the second-ranked firm, SGM Engineering, and then the third-ranked firm, Lewis Aguirre and Associates, PA. Upon successful negotiations, the manager's office will bring this agreement back to council for approval.
Thank you, sir. Council, questions, comments? Any public comment? Yeah, I'll close the public hearing and ask for a motion to approve. Moved by Vice Mayor Fletcher, second by Councilman Cannonball. All in favor? Any opposed? Next item is tab 14. Motion to place car number 4112 on the council agenda, planning, design, and engineering services for septic to sewer conversion. Mr. Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. On May 18th, 2023, Procurement and Contract Services Department issued RFQ 2023-16, Planning, Design, and Engineering for Septic to Sewer Conversion. Mayor and Council authorized the city manager to negotiate with the top-ranked firms in order of scoring on August 23rd, 2023. Staff recommends that Mayor and Council approve the attached resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Hazen and Sawyer for planning, design, and engineering services for septic to sewer conversion in a lump sum amount of $255,720. This project is funded from the American Rescue Plan Act that the city was awarded. Additionally, the city manager is authorized to increase the fees set forth in the proposal by up to 10% in the event of additional engineering services are deemed necessary to complete the services for the projects in accordance with RFQ 2023-16.
Thank you. Council? So generally speaking, let me ask a question, I'll tell you why I'm asking it. How long is this engineering, does it ever go stale, generally? And what I'm getting at is, you know, we've had this discussion before. And planning, designing, and engineering it is just a drop in the bucket of what it cost, A, to construct it on our part, and B, I've always had objections that until we find the pot of gold that allows us to bear the cost of the homeowner hooking into it and abandoning their septic tanks, I don't want to go forward. So are we spending money on something here that's going to become obsolete? I mean, I guess we're anticipating that at some point the county and the state probably going to throw money down this way to do it.
What he wants to know, if we do the engineering, they're done in 6 months, but say it's 3 years before we have the money to fund the actual work, do they have to update the plans at that point again?
The answer to that is 90% no, they wouldn't have to. The only thing I'm thinking, just in the future, let's say if they addressed some capacity improvements to a pump station, let's say, and in the meantime, before we do any work, there's more flow that goes into that pump station. Now that capacity increase may have to be modified somewhat. But other than that, all the street work, all the piping, all that would be the same. That wouldn't change. And that would be there, you know, till at some point it gets built. The design wouldn't necessarily have to change.
Mayor, I mean, if you have the concern, I mean, we could definitely put this off until we find the funding, but.
Well, but, you know, and I understand that the ARPA funds, that's a clear approved use. And we also understand that the county and the state are moving toward global septic to sewer, and that we have a time frame within which we must spend, or at least commit this ARPA money. And it probably is a good idea to have that, because someday this might be one of those partially unfunded mandates. You know, but again, my big picture concern is, you know, once we do this, is finding a way to help the homeowners absorb that cost. It's not just our side of the meter, as we've talked about earlier.
And you know, we apply for all kinds
Yeah.
of grants, so there might be some funding coming down the pipe from the state.
And I think, Mr. Brea, I mean, and we talked about this a couple of years ago when we got the funding. It's about 1,500 homes still on septic in Homestead?
It's about 1,200, you know, 1,200.
1,200.
Plus or minus, you know, it's gone down a little bit in the past.
Yeah.
But, yeah, and this
would
is
cover
going to
about
affect.
150 or so?
150, yeah. It depends on the numbers when they come in, right? How many homes we can do for the 2.5 million that we're asking from the ARPA funds. So
All
it's
right.
going to be a math equation.
I mean, you know, as I say, the journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step, but we need to be careful in reading that roadmap and be clear as to where we're going as well. Anything further from council? Anything from the public? A motion to approve? Moved by Councilwoman Bailey, second by Vice Mayor Fletcher. All in favor? Any opposed? Tab, well, we did tab 15. Okay. Does that mean we're actually down to the last item? All right. Tab 16, car number 4120, professional services agreements.
Thank you, Mayor. After the last meeting, council made the motion that we bring a professional services agreement back to council for approval. Once after the meeting, we started looking at it, it turns out to be 154 agreements right now. Now, prior to that meeting, some had already been executed. Since then, other ones have not. We stopped doing what we were doing. So we're just looking for clarification. What do you mean by is long-term a year, 5 years, 6 months, to address council's concerns? And at that point, we can get those contracts that you all want to see, and we could bring them to you all for the next council meeting. Obviously, these are agreements that we've told people, like, stop what you're doing, but these are things that are constantly being used for day-to-day operations. So
Certainly
just looking
can.
for clarification.
In my discussion, my intent was that we neither renew or enter into new agreements that were not terminable on anything more than, in my mind, 30 days' notice. Mr. Pearl has shared with me that virtually all of the agreements in this package are terminable on 7 days' notice. Yeah, 7 to 30 days' notice with no penalty, clearly paying for services or products that have been provided, but no penalty. So that's where I was coming from. However, and that's fine. However, in looking through the list and reading the description, it appears, and you know, this is an aside from, do these fall within the scope or inside or outside the scope of what my initiative was. And I think they're fine. But what I see here is a lot of contracts that appear to be duplicative of each other. We seem to have more than one social media person, more than one events person. I see some contracts in here that may no longer apply. I'll just pull one out of the air, the new market tax credits consulting contract, just as an example, that may no longer be applicable. So, you know, I'd like to sit down, you know, I have my list marked, and, you know, obviously we're not going to necessarily name names in public, but go through and have some determination as to whether or not some of these are really necessary, which is a parallel conversation to what did council intend that needed to be approved by us for renewal. You know, and clearly, again, you know, mine were anything that contained a penalty and needed more than 30 days notice.
So your concerns, social media ones, you
Well,
mentioned.
I have several marked, and, you know, those were just a couple of examples.
Okay.
But if these were all active and good and not duplicative contracts, based upon the representation and assurances of Mr. Pearl, that they all can be terminated from anywhere between 7 and 30 days with no penalty, philosophically, I don't have a problem with you going forward.
Okay.
My issue is some of, you know, let's take a look at some that, do we really need these?
If we can get together tomorrow,
Yes.
that would be very helpful.
Be happy to do that.
Okay, excellent.
All right.
Thank you.
Councilman Davis.
Jerry, my question is not one of specifics, you know, the specifics on the list, but rather of a process. What process is there on an annual or semi-annual basis to review this list to say, wait a minute, these guys are, you know, this may be obsolete, this may be unnecessary, what have you. We haven't used this particular one in an extended period of time, we need to drop it. What process is there in the city to do that? Because this seems like a lot.
It is a lot. And so the process is for a particular vendor, let's say it's just vendor A, so we're not saying anybody's name or anything like that. It's being used by the Parks and Recreation Department. So at the end of the fiscal year, when the agreements are expiring, procurement goes to that department and says, hey, are you still using vendor A for so-and-so service? All right? So at that point, at the director level, they're saying, you know what, we're still using vendor A for I don't know, for events at parks. And so at that point, procurement sends a letter to the vendor and says, listen, we'd like to extend your agreement if it's allowed, okay? Because not all agreements are extendable, right? Some agreements through councils in the past have said, hey, listen, the manager has the authority to perpetually extend these. Some are not. It's like, hey, 3 years and that was it, and there's no authorization for the manager's office to extend it. So we reach out to the department. The department says, yes, we want to retain their services. The procurement reaches out to the vendor, ensures that it's the same terms and conditions. The vendor signs off a letter saying, hey, I'm willing to maintain, still be a vendor with you, same terms and conditions. All of that information is put in together in an agreement, an updated agreement, goes to legal, gets checked out by everyone, and then that comes up to the manager's office, where the ACMs, depending on their departments, right? And Zach's over parks. So if it's a parks contract that's being renewed, Zach reviews it to ensure that, hey, this is good, and then they sign off it. We've had instances that, hey, listen, why is this vendor being used? We're not using this vendor anymore, and we've thrown out the agreement. So that's kind of, in short, the
So each
process.
one of these, on these, 4, 6, 8 pages, each one has been reviewed within the last 12 months.
At the end of the fiscal year,
Correct.
the procurement reached out to all the departments
So
on
within
all
12
of those
months.
agreements to ensure that they want to move forward with it.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
And then, so what oversight does your office have to say, and I'm just questioning because
No, I got
it just
you.
seems like a
Absolutely.
lot for a town, for a city our size. And kind of like the mayor said, a lot of repetitiveness, you know. What grand oversight is there to say, wait a minute, this don't look right? You know what I mean? Who's that person? This don't smell right. How are we going to make this work?
Right. So once again, it's multifaceted looking at, there's the director, right? Director level. Procurement looks at it to make sure that everything looks good. Legal looks at it in the preparation of the agreement. Then in the end, it comes to the assistant city managers. They know their departments, right? And they know if the contract's being used or not used, and at that point, they sign off on the agreement.
Well, when I say,
But I'm sorry.
I'm
just
using
to
imprecise
answer
language,
you,
and
I think more directly.
One moment, attorney.
I'm sorry.
I'm using imprecise language, and I apologize to you all. When I say it doesn't smell right, I'm talking about illegality. Let me make that clear. What I mean is that someone has oversight to say, wait a minute, this is redundant. Why are we doing this? Who's that guy or person? Okay.
It would be the assistant city manager.
Yeah, and my apologies for using imprecise.
No, that's fine.
vernacular.
That's fine.
Yes,
James, you
attorney,
have-
I'm sorry. to cut you
I'm
short.
sorry. I was just going to say that I think also to direct your question, the threshold, the benchmark is set forth by you all in your purchasing guidelines and regulations, which stem to give the manager authority to prove certain contracts or certain agreements within the threshold. And so you all always can modify or look at that with respect to any changes that you want. That would then
Yeah, that's a correct point excellent point, James. Right, like the city manager only has authority for professional agreements of $25,000. Council has deemed it okay for the city manager to expend that level. But for professional agreements, if it's $25,001, I have to bring it back to council for our actual approval.
Okay, thanks. Thank you very much.
Do you have what you need from us? Other than I'll go through some of the ones that I've, highlighted.
I'm sorry, Mayor, I didn't hear
Do
you.
you have what you need from us at this
Yes,
point?
and if we could meet tomorrow, I think that would be very helpful. Yeah, I know there's something lingering. But I'll say it at the end when we finish up here.
Well, this was the last item.
Oh, okay. Did you all see the email from Albert Milo requesting a workshop this month to then go ahead and have a council meeting to approve the old City Hall project? Did you guys see that, or? I'm looking for direction right now from council, what you all want to do.
Yeah, he's requested, I understand, some one-on-ones.
Okay, so I know that I haven't had a chance, or I haven't had a chance for Councilman Canaval and Davis to meet with the Rebel Group to kind of go over the history of everything there. And I know I'm meeting with Councilman Canaval tomorrow, so I'm just kind of looking for a little guidance there. Are we entertaining doing a workshop, or we'll discuss that maybe next week?
Let's have further discussion next week after you've had the opportunity.
Okay.
That's probably an accelerated schedule.
Okay, fair enough.
That's where I would be on that.
Okay.
I understand it's important. So, any further business,
No,
Mr. Manager?
that's it for me, Mayor. Thank you.
Mr. Attorney?
Nothing at this time, Mayor.
Council members? No. I just want to say thank you to everybody who helped put together the Christmas tree lighting event. What I think, unless you know something I don't, it seems to be a success. We'll see how the second weekend of fake ice skating goes. I think that that the first 2 days were around 700 skaters? Yeah, you did. You did. I think just, in round numbers, about 700. But, the video that I took when we were on the stage is just incredible. The park seems to be maxed out. It was just a wonderful, wonderful community event. So I want to thank everyone for...
Special credit for Parks and Recreation and Pedro and his team. They did an outstanding job.
Very well done. Very well done.
Very good. We'll continue. Yeah, a lot of happy kids. So with that, do we have a motion to adjourn? And seconded by all. If anyone's opposed, you can sit here all night.